I knew things were going a little too smooth for my beloved Golden Gophers. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football, and if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Make sure if you like our content to smash the like button. If you want to support the channel with a donation, please hit the $ super chat. We'll get you a comment right away. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend with your phone calls and your comments. We were this close. The Minnesota Golden Gophers were this close from having a perfect December. It wasn't like last September when we lost everybody in the portal, a whole bunch of starters. No, we built back Dinky Town Athletics, the collective. Everybody's coming back except for the quarterback, which is fine. All of the eligible starters are coming back. We got FCS best quarterback, number 9 rated in the whole portal. He's coming to Minnesota. We just landed the top outside defensive back in the portal. I was this close from coming on here and bragging. And I was going to be like, I was going to be impossible for you guys to listen to watch. And then, out of nowhere, I thought we were past this danger. I put it on my Twitter account. Get away, Sparty. I put that in there 3 or 4 days ago. I knew they were going after our defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi. I thought we escaped the danger. Then this afternoon, Pete Thamel, ESPN, sources, Minnesota's defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi, is expected to become the next defensive coordinator at Michigan State. And there is my reaction to it. Now, I get it. This is a national college football YouTube channel. I'm turning that music off. I get it. This is a national. I don't think I've ever done a live show has to do with the headline being about the Minnesota Golden Gophers in a year and a half that we've been doing this. I'm pretty sure that many of you are going to come into the chat and leave, and that's fine. I am completely devastated. Gopher fans are completely devastated. And what really gets to me, before we came on the live show this afternoon, is some of the Michigan State fans don't even get it. They're complaining. Go to Minnesota, go to Michigan State 247. They're questioning the hire. Are you kidding me? This year in 2023, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and I explained it over and over again in the offseason, they're going to take a couple steps back. I picked them at 6-6. They went 5-7. They took a couple steps back. Worse quarterback play than I thought we were going to get, but everything else kind of turned out what I thought. The back seven wasn't going to be able to keep up. That's not Joe Rossi's fault. The portal, we lost people. We didn't have a collective really set up. Now we do, and we're keeping everybody, but now it's too late. When you look at Joe Rossi's record, don't look at 2023 when we were playing true freshmen all over the place. Come on, man. Go look at the 3 years prior. Ranked number 3 in the country in defense. Ranked number 4 in the country in defense. Ranked number 9th in the country in total defense. Primarily with 3-star recruits. The unbelievable development of these young men in Joe Rossi. The University of Minnesota was paying Joe Rossi $1.25 million a year. And he sounds like he's going to get about $250,000 to $350,000 more at East Lansing. I thought we were going to lose to Joe Rossi because he was going to take a head coaching position. But no, he's jumping to a team, the Gophers, to a program the Gophers have beaten the last 2 years. Joe Rossi has shut the Spartans down. Yes, Minnesota gave up a lot of yards and points versus the good teams. We didn't have... Look at the entire record of Joe Rossi. He is absolutely spectacular. Spartans in the chat and those who are going to watch this show later on, come on, man. Jonathan Smith knows what's going on, and that is going to cause a problem. Jonathan Smith, the title of this live show is, he is going to be causing some problems in the Big Ten. That title of the show today is not a shot against Coach Smith. I am praising Coach Smith. You see what he did at Oregon State? You see the defense he built at Oregon State? Besides Phil Parker and maybe a couple others, there's nobody more respected in the game in the Big Ten than Joe Rossi. Jonathan Smith is going to be a problem. We had heard days ago that Michigan State was targeting Joe Rossi. Then we had heard that if he doesn't take the Michigan State job, maybe Penn State's going to be making a move after the bowl game. It doesn't sound like that's materializing. Joe Rossi is an incredibly awesome defensive coordinator, and Michigan State is going to cause a problem. John Till, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Darius Taylor, the great running back for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. He won back-to-back Freshman of the Week award in the Big Ten Conference. Then he got injured. He's coming back to Minnesota because of Dinky Town Athletics, the collective. He's already made a commercial, and no, Minnesota's getting all their guys back except for the Greek Rifle. And then we brought in the top FCS quarterback. So we're fine. This was a sensational December for Minnesota. And I was this close for coming on in here and saying, everybody look out for Minnesota. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but I thought we were past the danger. We weren't. Joe Rossi to Michigan State. And I got to tell you, 2 years ago, Minnesota went into East Lansing, and I think the final score was Minnesota 34, Michigan State 7. And then the Gophers, without the players that they've had in the past 3 or 4 years, basically shut down Michigan State again. Jonathan Smith was a great hire for Michigan State. He comes on in and he gets his man, Joe Rossi. So, again, I'm going to get off this subject. We're going to talk about anything college football that you want. We were not going to do a Sunday afternoon show. But I looked at the wife once again and I said, holy smokes, this is not good. I cannot have live shows. I have to do live shows, especially when things are going bad here in the studio. I have no idea who Minnesota would even target at this point. I don't think it's going to be someone internal. I have no names for you. I'm rattled. I'm absolutely rattled. Most Gopher fans with any common sense is completely rattled. The Minnesota Golden Gophers before this year had won 29 games in the last 3 full seasons. The best stretch in Minnesota Golden Gopher football since 1962, 1963, 1964. Thank you, PJ Fleck. But also, thank you, Joe Rossi. Because he had an unbelievable part in all of this. And it looks like we were gearing up again. We just got an outside cornerback from Butler who Arkansas, I mean, list the names. He had about over 20 offers. All these Power Fives, and he committed today to go to Minnesota. Minnesota's defense was about to crank it up again, just like they have in the last 3 previous years under Joe Rossi. And now Joe Rossi is gone to East Lansing, to Michigan State. So let me end this by saying this. Michigan State, the fans, some of you, I've read your comments. You're going to find out real quick what a great hire Jonathan Smith made. And maybe, just maybe, Jonathan Smith knows what he's doing. I think he knows what he's doing. I hope Sparty Nation understands Jonathan Smith and Joe Rossi together on the same sidelines. I think Michigan State is on their way. And then they're going, we'll get into the quarterback targets here. They might be hitting it big there as well. So Michigan State, I think good times are ahead. I want to thank everybody for coming on in this afternoon show. Mr. Buckeye Jared Jones, we're going to go into a few more topics here at college football. James Foster, Gold Devils. The Big Lubbock is in the house. Gerald McKinley's in the house. Jeff Jorgensen. R. Webb, son of Sarek. The Evil Badger, Jeff Olson. Ola Senor. Wisconsin. The Evil Badgers are quite happy with this development at Minnesota. The moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, Mireya Hernandez Garcia Flugar. She saw me devastated when the news hit. Joe Rossi to Michigan State. Mireya had to watch me curl up in a fetal position. And then I had to unwind from my fetal position to come into the studio and get this show going. Man, oh man. Jeremy Nork's in the house. Thank you for coming on in. Michigan versus the world. I would have to disagree. I know about the Michigan State rival. Sparty's not going to be a dumpster fire with Jonathan Smith and Joe Rossi together. Will they be challenging for the Big Ten Championship next year? No. The year after? No. A dumpster fire? I would disagree, but I appreciate the comment. But dumpster fire, I do not think so. I don't know what's this about cleaning dishes. Once the news hit, I wasn't going to be washing any dishes. How can you wash dishes when you're curled up in a fetal position? It's pretty much impossible. There was other news. So as Michigan State is gearing up for the Big Ten season next year, 2024, as they get a fantastic top-of-the-line Joe Rossi. By the way, Joe Rossi was in the final 2 for the Notre Dame defensive coordinator job when Marcus Freeman got the job. So we almost lost Joe Rossi to Notre Dame. And he could have had his pick among a whole lot of other like G5 head coaching positions. But Michigan State's not the only school gearing up on defense This was a significant move from Lincoln Riley and the USC. Now remember, the USC Trojans, they got their guy, the former defensive coordinator of UCLA. Then they bring in Matt Entz, the North Dakota State Bison head coach. He will resign after the season to become the USC's linebackers coach. The Bison, 11-3, will play at Montana in an FCS semifinal on Saturday. Coach Entz is 60-10 in 5 seasons with the Bison, including FCS titles in 2019, 2021. This guy is, and previous North Dakota State head coaches, Craig Boyle and a couple others, this guy's done a great job at bringing in defensive players into the Bison program across the Midwest who don't quite get the look from the Big Ten schools. This guy is he is a sensational pickup for Lincoln Riley. USC going to the Big Ten next year, trying to develop, trying to find a diamond in the rough all throughout the Midwest. This is the guy that you wanted to hire. And this is the guy that they got. Hold on. No. I don't know what my wife is doing. She's bringing music in here. Okay. That can be a copyright strike. Maria? Okay. She's dancing in the studio. Okay. And this is one of those hires that is not going to is a hire that's not going to grab the headlines. But this is a sensational hire. Sensational hire by Lincoln Riley. Absolutely fantastic. More news. Ty Thompson. Oregon's Ty Thompson is expected to enter the transfer portal per reports. The former 5-star has thrown for 297 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 77 4-point completion percentage this season. Got to play a little bit. Big time recruit. But Oregon went with Bo Nix for a second year. And now Oregon has brought in Dylan Gabriel. So Ty Thompson is in the portal. The portal is jam-packed with high-level quarterbacks. This guy has a very promising career. Very, very interesting. The day before, there was a photo of Ty Thompson basically kind of walking out. The camera was behind a shelf full of Oregon helmets, and it looked like Ty Thompson was walking out of the facility, so to speak. So Ty Thompson was giving everybody kind of a heads up that this was going to happen. And you can't blame him. And the Oregon Duck fans have been, saying, Ty Thompson, we hope for you for the best. You're going to always be a Duck. People understand the new situation here at college football. Right? So, though that's some of the news going on in college football, one other thing I'm going to break right here. Not break. I broke it earlier. On early peak. Early peak episode. We've had episode number 9. This is for early peak members. If you want to become an early peak member, go to the link in the description, hit the join button. Episodes for members only. We drop a little bit of information before anyone else sees it. So the information that we dropped early this morning, Sunday, December 10th, is we have been given information that Riley Leonard will announce that he's going to Notre Dame tomorrow, Monday. That's what we were told the day that the announcement is going to take place. And that's the information that we dropped in to the Early Peak episode for Early Peak members this morning. So if our information is correct, Riley Leonard's going to be off the board, going to Notre Dame, and that is going to be pretty interesting going into next year. Remember, Notre Dame opens the 2024 football season against Texas A&M in College Station. Mike Elko is the new head coach at Texas A&M, and he was the head coach of Riley Leonard. So that's going to be a dramatic, I believe it's August 31st, an early game in the season. It's going to be pretty dramatic. Now we believe, we got the information, we dropped it in very early this morning on an Early Peak episode. So that's, right, Dylan Gabriel goes to Oregon. Riley Leonard, if we're correct, it's going to be announced tomorrow, Monday, that he's going to Notre Dame. I think the next domino to fall will be Cameron Ward. Where's Cameron Ward going to go? That's the question. Coy, Kyle McCord and Julian Fleming expected to visit Nebraska this week. They're visiting Nebraska, I believe, together. That would be a great get for Nebraska. If they're able to get Kyle McCord, that would be a great, great get. Nebraska has to get away from this offense that they have been running under Scott Frost, and I think Matt Rule had no choice but to run it last year in 2023, where the quarterback has 10 to 15 design runs, where the quarterback never throws the ball downfield because Nebraska has not had a quarterback who could throw downfield. That's one of the things Kyle McCord can do. Did he have the season that the Buckeyes wanted him to have? No. Has he developed into the next great Buckeye quarterback? No. Which brings up the question, who is Ohio State going to get here? Who are they going to get to be their starting quarterback in 2024? I don't think it's going to be Devin Brown. I think they're going to get somebody in the portal. Who is it going to be? That's a huge question mark. But Kyle McCord going to Nebraska is going to give Nebraska something that they haven't had in 7 to 8 years, or even longer, actually. Somebody who can take the ball, throw it downfield so the defense doesn't crowd up at the line of scrimmage. The reason why Nebraska loses these close games is because Nebraska's offense always becomes very easy to figure out in the second half. That's how it's been for years. Nebraska got Tony White, their defensive coordinator, come back this year for 2024, unlike my Minnesota Golden Gophers. So they're set on defense. If they get Kyle McCord, Thomas Fedoni, the tight end, he's going to flourish with Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord liked to look for Staver, the great tight end for the Buckeyes. He's going to be looking for Thomas Fedoni for Nebraska. So he's going to flourish under this type of offense. Nebraska, in my opinion, still needs to get RB1 into their program. I don't see it on their current roster. Maybe a true freshman can become that for Nebraska, but I don't see it with their current running backs. Obi-Wan Kenobi, go green. Michigan Spartans is having a very good day. Very good day. They got Joe Rossi, the great defensive coordinator from Minnesota. So congratulations. Mireya, I just went to throw the garbage, Greg. And then Kenneth Evans, salsa music and football talk is an excellent combination. It is, except that the salsa music, for example, like this. I know that music is not going to cause a copyright strike. That music I have legally. The music that Mireya has playing, blasting as she comes in the studio, if that gets picked up, I'm probably going to get a copyright strike. So that's why I had to ask the moderator, the producer of the show, to skedaddle out of the studio. Okay. Ward, Ohio State. DJ to Florida State. Adam Briggs. We have heard steam on DJ Ungo Ungale to Florida State. But the Ward, Ohio State, that's who I thought right away, when it first came out, the Kyle McCord winning the transfer portal, that's who I predicted was going to happen right away, but I haven't been hearing too much steam since then. So I don't know what's happening there. Michael Van Buren, breaking news. Michael Van Buren, a former Oregon commit 4-star, has committed to Mississippi State. Oregon to Mississippi State, Michael Van Buren. That's breaking news. That just happened, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your head on a swivel. Let me know what's going on in the college football world as we're doing a live show. I'm going to open up the phone lines again. Sunday afternoon, we were not going to do a live show, but then devastation hit. Golden Gopher country. Joe Rossi, the great defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi, who's been at PJ Fleck's side for years. Incredible defense, top 10 defense in the country. 3 of those years for Minnesota. He's going on to Michigan State. The phone line, the number is 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. The phone line is open. Woo! Kenneth Evans throwing an elbow at Nebraska. Nebraska has been regulated to a paycheck school status. They will never be anything more than providing viewership and conference. I disagree with that. But I appreciate the comment, Kenneth Evans. Nebraska is going to be back at some point. Will they be a program that's going to be able to challenge for the Big Ten championship year after year? No. There's not many programs that can do that anywhere in the country. But Nebraska has incredible support. Unbelievable fan base, a big-time NIL collective. They've had really bad coaching. The Scott Frost thing, I did not have a college football YouTube channel at the time, but I had Flug Empire on my Twitter account. And I, right away, when Scott Frost, that very first press conference, that very first team that he put on the field, the way he ran his offense, the way he wanted to run his offense, it was never going to work in Big Ten football. You might be able to have that work in UCF at that time in the AAC, but that wasn't going to work in the Big Ten. You cannot have your quarterback running the ball 15 to 20 times. You can't just sit there and throw flat passes on the line of scrimmage to your wide receivers. Big Ten defense, even those, what do you call them, paycheck schools? Those paycheck schools in the Big Ten, if you want to call them that, they all have great defensive players on their team. Those middling schools, they all have NFL players getting drafted. And you cannot play that type of offense in the Big Ten. You just get hammered. And Nebraska's offense got hammered year after year after year under Scott Frost. Matt Rule gets it. He wants a more pro-style quarterback who's not going to have design runs, who can chuck the ball downfield, and hopefully for their sake they can get a power game, running game going. Now again, Nebraska's been down. They haven't been to the bowl game in 7 or 8 years. The Minnesota Golden Gophers have beaten them 5 straight years, with Joe Rossi being a big part of that. Now he's leaving to Michigan State. You can run your quarterback if you JT Barrett, Pryor, or Braxton Miller. Yeah. And, you know, the Buckeyes are going to have more talent all over the field. JT Barrett was a tough dude, man. He was a tough, and Pryor was they were all, Miller and Barrett were tough, really tough dudes. And Pryor was an unbelievable athlete. Yeah, it's difficult. It is very, very difficult. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm so pumped about this hire. Pairing a Rossi defense with a Jonathan Smith offense should be great. So there is at least one Michigan Spartan fan out there who gets it. Who gets it. I can't. Joe Rossi, forget about 2023. Obi-Wan Kenobi, let your Michigan Spartan fans know you got to cancel out 2023. The team was absolutely devastated with injuries, and before they were devastated with injuries, they were devastated in the portal, and that wasn't Rossi's issue. Look at the years prior to 2023. Look what Joe Rossi did with 3 stars players. And now look what he's going to be able to do with the bigger collective, Michigan State, better recruiting grounds. Look, just go take a look at the 2022 football game. Minnesota at Michigan State in East Lansing. Just take a look at the game. Look at the Gophers' defense in that game against Michigan State, against Mel Tucker, against a team that have way better recruiting classes, ranked better recruiting classes than Minnesota. And the Gophers destroyed Michigan State. Look at what Joe Rossi's defense did in that game. And a whole bunch of other games in the Big Ten since Joe Rossi has been at Minnesota. It's an excellent hire. It might take a while for Michigan State, for the majority of the fans to get it. But they're going to get it because Joe Rossi is a serious dude. When he has his press conference, you're going to know right away. It is a big deal. Yeah, and more of these reports coming out. Nebraska's going to have Julian Fleming on the field, on campus, along with Kyle McCord. We talked about Kyle McCord. We have not talked about Julian Fleming. I am high on Kyle McCord. I think that's going to be a very good pickup. Very good pickup for Nebraska if they can get him. It sounds like they're going to get him. But I don't know about Julian Fleming. And I get it, Ohio State's wide receiver room has been filled, packed to the gills for years. It's nothing like Nebraska's wide receiver room. So Fleming's going to be able to go to the Lincoln, Nebraska and play right away, play a whole bunch of snaps. And maybe they can develop him. But there was definitely something missing. He didn't get a whole lot of targets in Columbus. He didn't get a lot of passes thrown to him. But there is definitely something missing. He dropped quite a few balls. He did not develop at Ohio State. This guy was supposed to be the top receiver, the top couple receivers in his high school class. And how many years has it been? 3-4 years? It's worth the take for Nebraska. It's worth the take, especially him coming in with Kyle McCord. You take both of them. I'm just not sure it's it might not be the needle mover that Nebraska's hoping for. But Kyle McCord, I'm big on that one for Nebraska. Simon Sarek says, I'm higher on Fleming than McCord. I'm the other way around. Nebraska has been irrelevant since Reagan was president. Yeah, they won 3 natties after Reagan. They have been getting beat in Big Ten. There's no question about it. They were not ready for Big Ten football. They were a lot smaller than most of the teams in the Big Ten. And it's finally taken them. Now they finally understand it. And that's why I think it's a big deal that Tony White became the defensive coordinator last year. He did a great job, and he's coming back for this year. Now, he's another guy who's probably going to leave after next year to get his head coaching job that he's rightfully earned. Tony White was the defensive coordinator at Syracuse, did a great job. Comes to Nebraska, did a fantastic job. Down in Kansas, Nebraska should return to the Big 12. There's no oxygen for them. There's no way Nebraska's taking that pay cut. Not only that, but Nebraska, there's been some other sports of theirs that have been absolutely ignited being in the Big Ten. One of them being women's volleyball. They could win the whole thing. Now, I know that is not a revenue-producing sport for most universities, but it is for Nebraska. Doesn't make a lot, but it is a revenue-producing sport for Nebraska, believe it or not. No, Nebraska, they're not going back to the Big 12. It's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough to win these games. Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, it's going to be tougher for them. But they're not going into the SEC because it's going to be easier for them. They're going in there because it's going to give them more exposure, more money. We've been through this with revenues going to the student athletes. That extra revenue is going to help Texas and Oklahoma. It's been tough for Nebraska. Kyle McCord. Who do you think's the next 4 teams to join the Big Ten? Thank you, early peak member Jonathan Weaver, for the question. I can't possibly even attempt to answer that question. first of all, one of the things is if I speculate and say what I think, then people think I'm reporting that, and it gets all mixed up. And I have to be careful, and I have been careful with that. Unlike the Oregon and Washington thing where we said those were going to be the next two schools in, and when we broke the USC and the Colorado thing with the Big 12, this one's going to be so much more complicated, this next realignment wave. The first thing we're going to look at is North Carolina and how they replace the chancellor. Who gets the job at North Carolina? Brian Murphy, the next North Carolina chancellor, may have to decide what athletic conference the Tar Heels plan. A move that could have huge implications for the university, the state, the ACC, and other UNC system schools, most notably North Carolina State and its rival with Duke. No biggie. 2 days before that, I put out a tweet. Decision on who replaces Kevin Gusowich as next chancellor of North Carolina would demonstrate what faction at Chapel Hill actually has the power moving forward in making the monumental realignment decision if one presents itself to the institution within the next couple of years. So I'm not trying to take the easy way out, even though I'm taking the easy way out. North Carolina is the top domino piece. And we believe here at Peek Around the Corner that the SEC faction is going to do, pro-SEC faction at Chapel Hill is going to do everything they can to get their person in that spot as chancellor. So we're going to know if there's going to be a great indication of what North Carolina is about to do and who gets in that chancellor seat. And that's not going to happen for a few months. Where North Carolina, how that domino falls, then what impact, how the other domino falls. Florida State, Clemson, the Virginia Tech. So when you ask what are the next four teams, I would answer, I do not know. I don't even have a guess. But we're looking at North Carolina right now and who fills that chancellor's seat. I talked about it on December 6th on a live show. On December 8th, Brian Murphy basically said the same thing. And we're going to be hearing more reports on that. The knives were out for Mike Gusowich. He was a silent pro-Big Ten voice at the top of North Carolina. He's no longer there. He's going to Michigan State, which happens to be a Big Ten school, which happens to have a hockey program. So, don't know. But the North Carolina piece is massive. Now, we have been working on it. I don't have anything to report to you yet. But we are going to, hopefully in the very near future, if we can do it without getting in trouble, we're going to hopefully be able to provide names, at least a name or two, at least a name, that we believe are going to be top candidate for the new chancellor job at North Carolina, and then let you know in the same breath how that person is that person being pushed up by the pro-SEC faction or the pro-Big Ten faction within North Carolina. Jonathan Weaver, 9/21, 2024. Jonathan Weaver, early peak member. Greg, mark your calendar. Iowa's Pig is coming home. I think that's the first Big Ten game for Iowa in Minnesota, right? I believe it is. I want to check something real quick here. I just wanted to quickly check. We're talking about Joe Rossi, the great defensive coordinator, joining Jonathan Smith at the sidelines in East Lansing. That's a great combination. Holy smokes. They start the season out Florida Atlantic at Maryland, September 7th. Louisiana at Boston College. Ohio State at East Lansing. At Oregon. Iowa at Michigan. Boy, they got a tough schedule. Michigan State's got a tough schedule. Okay, I just wanted to take a quick look at that. I also heard, holy smokes, Anthony Carlson comes in with a massive super chat. Michigan State made a great hire with Joe Rossi. Rossi. But I don't see them competing for the Big Ten title for a while due to how bad shape they're in right now. Keep up the good work, Greg. Macho Man, Randy Savage. Oh, yeah. Dig it. Anthony Carlson comes in with a very generous super chat. Thank you so much, sir, for your generosity to this channel. Holy smokes. But I agree with you. Don't think Michigan State's going to be able to compete. They're not going to be able to compete in the next couple of years. But man, Joe Rossi. I get it, though. I get it. Most of you don't pay attention to Gopher. I get it. This is a national college football show. So tomorrow I'm not going to be talking about the Gophers. Tuesday I'm not going to be talking about the Gophers. Wednesday I'm not, I think this is the only time in a year and a half on a live show, on a small little live show. Not a big one, just a small one, Sunday afternoon, talking college football with my friends in the PATC community. It's got to be the first time I ever let off that the title has to do with the Gopher. But Joe Rossi was that important. He was that important, and I know and I get it. But don't take my word for it. The fat guy from Minnesota, he's so biased. He's always bunny rabbits and unicorns, and he thinks he's so positive, which I'm not, by the way. But go look at the numbers. Not this year's numbers. Go look at 2022. Go look at 2021. I think the Gophers were like third in the nation in total defense. Look at the players he's developed. Antoine Winfield, safety. Look what he's doing in the NFL. Look what he did in the Big Ten. Tyler Nubin, he's an All-American this year. Joe Rossi went into the state of Illinois and plucked him out. He's an All-American this year. Gophers. Going to be drafted in the first round. That's Joe Rossi. Come on. Michigan State. I was all depressed, all upset. And then I went on the Michigan State message board, and they were questioning the hire. And I just wanted to pull my hair out. I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Anyways. Anthony Carlson, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for your incredible generosity to this channel. Thank you so very much, sir. But I do agree with you. And Randy Macho Man Savage probably agrees with you as he's in paradise. Probably not going to compete at the highest level of the Big Ten in the next couple of years. But Jonathan Smith, Joe Rossi, those are two serious dudes. The title of this show was Jonathan Smith is going to cause a problem. He's going to be a problem in the Big Ten. He's going to be a problem. John Till, thank you for the super chat. Florida State, Georgia Tech, Miami plus equals declared war on SEC territory. So John Till believes that the Big Ten might go to 4 schools. probably answering the question that was earlier proposed by Jonathan Weaver in the chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, John Till. Thank you so much for the super chat, Anthony Carlson. Wow. Yeah. You lose a bunch of players in the portal when you lose your coach. They lost a whole bunch of them a couple months ago. But you only can kind of control the situation that you have in front of you. Michigan State, I believe, it's my strongly held opinion, I believe Jonathan Smith was a home run hire. And then Jonathan Smith hiring Joe Rossi is a home run hire. So, I don't know. And I know Joe Rossi's personality. Jonathan Smith, Joe Rossi, that's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. Dolomite, if this West Coast invasion falls apart for the Big Ten, the Big 12 is in position to scoop those teams back up. I don't see USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon situation lasting long term for the Big Ten. Thank you so much for the comment, Dolomite. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on in. When you say it might fall apart because they might not be able to win the Big Ten championship, may not be able to get to the expanded playoffs, because financially, exposure-wise, it's going to work out. But we'll see. You know, when conferences get really big, well, conferences haven't succeeded when they've gotten to 16 schools and above. So if the Big Ten can keep it all together, it'd be the first time. So you have a great point, Dolomite. But financially, it's going to work out. I mean, let's take a look just what UCLA and USC got, what they're going to get on officially on, I don't know if it's August 1st or July 1st of 2024. It's usually July 1st, but if you read the Pac-12 bylaws, it might officially, whatever. It don't matter. In the summer of 2024, let's just say it's July 1st, USC and UCLA will be fully invested in the Big Ten network. They will have an ownership equal to what Nebraska has, what Penn State has, what Ohio State has, what Rutgers has, what Maryland has. They will have the same size slice of ownership of the Big Ten network. The Fox Sports owns 61% of the network, and the Big Ten Conference owns 39% of the network. Sliced up into equal slices among the schools, and then the Big Ten Conference gets an equal slice. Those schools are making $8-9 million just on the live content that is shown on the Big Ten Network. And then you make equity along the way because of the growth of the network. Not so much in subscriptions, but in money. They're getting more and more money every year because the ad rates keep going up, because more and more people are watching the Big Ten Network. Breaking records again in football numbers. Breaking all types of records in hockey numbers. Breaking all type of records in women's volleyball numbers. Viewership numbers. So it's going to be very difficult for... It's not a shot against the Big 12. If anybody's going to leave the Big Ten in the next 10 to 20 years, it's going to be for a Frankenstein monster that's created among the big-time helmet schools. Is that a possibility? Sure. Just about anything's a possibility in the future. Realignment never sleeps. But I don't see a future of the Big 12 being able to sweep up anything in the Big Ten. They're just not going to be able to do it. I just don't see how that's even possible. Thank you, Dolomite, for the comment. Appreciate it. Good work, little general. Brick Bat, early peak member, Florida State and Clemson, Big Ten. Immaculate is pro Georgia Tech. And he makes a lot of great points. Georgia Tech, big time market in a big time college football state. And it's a big time research academic school. It checks off all the marks, except for one, and I happen to think it's pretty important, but others don't. The check mark where Georgia Tech is not the biggest brand in a certain market. The Big Ten doesn't take the second brand in a market. Georgia Tech would be the first time for that, without having the top brand in the market, which of course is Georgia. But Immaculate has made a lot of good points about Georgia Tech. It's a massive, massive market. All roads lead to Atlanta, as Immaculate has said on this channel and on the Big 12 rival channel, or Mafia channel. Excuse me. All roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Atlanta when it comes to the South. So if Georgia Tech became a Big Ten school, that would that would be a big old flag in the South for the Big Ten. I happen to think they're not a target. Can things change? Of course they can. Do not think they're a target because Georgia absolutely dominates that market. But we shall see. Georgia Tech's going to be talked a lot about here in the next couple months. All the ACC schools are going to be talked about a lot in the coming months. Took UCLA, but they had USC, right? They can take the second team in the market, but they have to have the first. That's just how it's been historically. Could it change? We'll see with Georgia Tech. I mean, the Big Ten took in Michigan State after they had Michigan. Years and years and years, decades after they had Michigan. They took Indiana after they had Purdue. But to take the second biggest brand in a market without knowing that they're never going to have the biggest brand in that market, Georgia, that's something the Big Ten hasn't done. So I would bet against it, but could happen. John Till with the super chat. If the Big 12 wants 4 teams out west, Oregon State, Washington State, Fresno State, San Diego State would be happy to fill in. Same locations too. I happen to think that is correct, but I don't think the Big 12 wants any more schools out west. I think they got what they wanted. Maybe a Gonzaga for basketball, maybe some other sports, but I think the Big 12, I'm glad to take comments. I'm glad to take phone calls when it comes to the speculation. When people want to talk about Oregon State, Washington State to the Big 12, we here at Peek Around the Corner have never spent a minute in our monologues talking about that as a possibility. Because we were told no. Nope, Greg, it's not going to happen. Nope, they're not interested. Nope, there's no talks going on. And we have said that over and over at Peek Around the Corner. And for what we understand, nothing has changed. The Big 12 is just really, they were able to increase their bandwidth for their current media partners, Fox and ESPN, with the additions of Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. And now they might be able to do the same thing out east once the ACC implodes. I think that's what Brett Yormark is focusing on. I don't think Brett Yormark is focusing on a merger with the ACC, as some other people are reporting. Thank you, John Teal, for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity once again to this channel. Thank you so very much. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. We're just having a nice little Sunday conversation. Other people are watching the NFL. The Vikings are on, I guess. But in this studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue, we only talk college football. Only talk college football. Today, the big story, unfortunately, for Golden Gopher fans across the state of Minnesota, across the upper Midwest, the unthinkable happened. The unthinkable happened. The great Joe Rossi has left, and he's going to become the new defensive coordinator of the Michigan State Spartans. Head coach Jonathan Smith, they've been targeting him. They've been talking to him. I'm going to show you something here. Hopefully I can find it. Hopefully it doesn't take me too long. The Funeral March song is on.
Call from
Dan.
I'm sorry, did not get the name?
Dan.
Dan, thanks for calling. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thoroughly enjoy listening to your content. Great content all the time. So first time caller. Been listening to you from the very beginning. I just want your thoughts on a couple things. What do you think Florida State's chances would be to win the AP title if they beat Georgia by more than 10, and Alabama won the CFP and finished 14-1, and Florida State finished 14-0? And then the other point, just get your opinion on, is the Big 12 going east. If they would add somebody like Syracuse, Pitt, possibly Louisville, obviously, and then maybe Duke for basketball. So I appreciate the great content. I'll hang up and listen to your response. Thank you so much.
You
Great.
got
Take
it.
care now.
Beautiful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Great phone call. Excellent questions too. Excellent. First of all, in on paper, in theory, could Florida State get the number one AP? In years past, maybe. There would be a possibility, but I don't think it's possible, unfortunately. Because I think, as everybody knows, I think Florida State absolutely got screwed. The reason why I say I think it's impossible, even if Florida State beats Georgia by 25, 30, is just because there's so many people that are not going to play the football game. So the voters are not going to be taking it that seriously. They're just not going to take it that seriously. This guy's opting out for both teams. It's just isn't going to be the same. So I don't think the voters are going to jump Florida State that high because of that. So that's number one. Your second question on the Big 12. Again, I'm not even really trying to speculate and open who I think the SEC is going to take and the Big Ten is going to take, because my goodness, there's this huge, big domino piece at the very beginning of realignment. As you know, the number 2 rule or the number 3 rule, I should list this down so I at least stay consistent. The number 3 rule in realignment here, peek around the corner, is the big domino falls first, and then the other dominoes fall afterwards. In North Carolina, in this realignment wave, is going to be the big domino piece. And we don't know about North Carolina. We really have to find out internally who has the advantage, and we're going to find that out when we know who replaces Mike Gusowich as Chancellor of North Carolina. And all I can tell you, I promise you, we are on that story. I mean, we are talking to people, and hopefully we'll have some information on the possible candidates and what faction is supporting who, and we're going to give you that at Peek Around the Corner, and other people aren't going to be covering that aspect to it because they don't realize how important it is to the rest of this story. So to answer your question, I apologize to the caller. Eventually, I think the Big 12's main targets, and I think they will be able to eat at the ACC's table after the ACC loses some big brands. I think the number one targets is Louisville, Pittsburgh, possibly Miami of Florida. Louisville, Pittsburgh, Miami of Florida, possibly Georgia Tech. There was a school, and Duke, and then Duke's a complete wild card. I would have to think that Duke would be a factor. North Carolina State, if they don't get picked up. So it really is. The two schools that I do not believe really have any pathway to the SEC or the Big Ten. The wall is just too high for them to jump. But yet, I think would be bullet targets for Brett Yormark is Louisville and Pittsburgh. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but there's just so many variables. And the biggest one starts with North Carolina. And then the next variable is the Virginia Tech situation politically in the state of Virginia, which is really entangled. So I didn't quite answer your question, caller. I do apologize. I hope you call again, however, even though I didn't answer the question. It really is it's great for you all to speculate, but I got to be careful. I have to be careful in how I speculate about this. Okay, the phone lines are back open. I wanted to show a tweet that I put out, and now I can't find it. Just give me another moment. I do apologize. Here we go. So it's December 10th. Joe Rossi, the great defensive coordinator in Minnesota, he's going to Michigan State. Absolutely devastating. On December 7th, I wrote in a post, "Stay away, Sparty! Stay away!" And then Omega Supreme, my brother from another mother, Mr. Spartan himself, says, "We like your defensive coordinator and that Brady kid. There is a great linebacker that's committed to Minnesota, but he's going to end up going to Michigan State. Michigan State's going to have a successful flip." And then I put two of these emojis. Very angry about the situation on both. Now, from December 7th to December 10th, sometime in between those 3 days, I thought we had escaped the danger. I thought maybe Joe Rossi wasn't going to Michigan State. That's why this hit so hard this afternoon. Besides Minnesota losing a great defensive coordinator, an incredible part of the coaching staff, an incredible part of the recent success of Minnesota, not counting this 2023 campaign, it hurt because I thought we had escaped the danger. But I was wrong. We did not escape the danger. Don't forget UConn for the Big 12. Brett loves them. Absolutely, John Till. Great point. Great comment. Thank you once again for your super chat. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much. Now, I'm having in mind, somebody help me out in the chat. Hank Bachmeier, the former quarterback of Boise State, who went to Louisiana Tech this year. He committed somewhere. I cannot remember where he committed. Oh, Wake Forest. I'm sorry. It just got on me. Wake Forest. Wake Forest has got Hank Bachmeier in the transfer portal. Congratulations to Wake Forest. Okay. Hold on one second. I keep losing you guys on a connection. Hopefully the connection's not going out. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Hopefully we're still okay. We can see you and hear you. Okay, it must be just my computer screen. The Gophers have received a commitment from Indiana transfer Trent Howland. Thank you, Donnie McKerney, for that early peak memory. Thank you for that information. I know Trent Howland took a visit. He's a big 235-pound running back. He finally got the ball at Indiana, had pretty good success. Didn't get it a whole lot, about 75 times. He's a big back. Darius Taylor is our number one running back next year. He's a beast. He's a phenom. We were able to keep him. We didn't lose him like we lost to Bucky Irving. A lot of teams went after him, but our collective is now bigger and stronger. We're able to dump money. We've been able to keep everybody. Everybody that we wanted to keep. All the eligible players except for the quarterback. And we were happy to make that change. So we're going after Trent. Like I said, I was this close from coming on and just bragging, just celebrating, being obnoxious, getting you all upset because how happy I am about this portal season for Minnesota. Last year went all pear-shaped. It was terrible. We lost players. We knew immediately 2023 was going to be a very difficult year. I got raked over the coals by Gopher fans when I said that we were going to go 6-6. Well, we nailed that. They went 5-7, but they were a little worse than I thought. But this year, the Gophers are I don't know what's going on. They got the quarterback they wanted. They got the defensive back they wanted. The great outside Robinson from Butler, who's gotten offers from 3 or 4 SEC schools, 3 or 4 Big Ten schools, and we got him today. We got Trent Howland, our number one target running back. We're getting all the guys and we're keeping all the guys we want. It's great. It's fantastic. It's celebration time. And then, out of the blue, we lose Joe Rossi. Devastating. It's like we cannot enjoy any...
Call from...
Immaculate.
We can't enjoy we can't enjoy 5 minutes here at Minnesota. We can't enjoy 5 minutes. Everything's going right, and then suddenly everything went wrong. Mr. Hot Guy, Immaculate, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
I need some help, Greg.
Well, I can't help you. I'm devastated.
I know, and I'm watching you and I'm hearing you and I'm thinking to myself, you know, we might have a bigger problem brewing down in Iowa. I know you lost your defensive coordinator, but I'm not hearing anything at all on the search for an offensive coordinator in Iowa.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be something.
I mean, we knew about this in season.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel for you that you just lost your defensive coordinator, but that just happened. I mean, we've had this mid-season nothing. I mean, What's he going to do? Wait till everyone's gone to just see who's left?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Is there even a name out there?
None. I mean, there's people throwing out names, but some of those have been taken. Like it's dwindling. The only one that I've seen that I think might still be around and will probably be available, which would probably mean why he's not in a hurry, but is Paul Christ.
Oh yeah.
They're kind of they're both a little old school.
Mm-hmm.
And come in there and probably not be too much of a threat to do something that Ferentz doesn't want to do. And so it's my worry that that's the case, and that's where they're going, because we're not hearing anything, and there's really no one coming out going, "Oh, Paul Christ is a candidate at such and such school." I mean, not a big threat. So yeah, I didn't know if maybe you or anyone else has heard anything, because it's been just cricket.
I just wonder, because we're in this portal season, right? You want players to visit your campus. You want your new offensive coordinator to say this is how we're going to do things.
Yeah.
And you don't have one there. And in fact, now that I think about it, I can't remember reading any reports on any Iowa moves in the portal. Has there been on the offensive side of the ball?
Really? I think I've seen a couple things, but it hasn't been anything splashy, and it hasn't even really been all that much going out, which is kind of surprising. But one thing that people may not realize is Kirk Ferentz builds up a lot of loyalty in his players. It's one of his better traits and qualities is his players love him. I mean, there's been some that have complained about things in the past, and I don't mean to minimize any complaints or anything that might have happened, but the amount of guys that come out and just talk about the guy in the most adoring way possible just by far outweighs the negative. And so I just it just feels like they're just not that worried. So it makes me think maybe he has someone in mind. It's just not a big deal right now. Probably dealing with his son and trying to figure out how that's going to happen and family stuff, and I don't know. I was curious if anyone heard anything, because it's just been dead quiet.
No.
Sometimes leaks will come out from other schools that a candidate's been talked to by another school, but I haven't seen anything.
No, I have not heard anything. I'm gonna poke and prod on that, but and if I come up with a name, I'll shoot it to you, and I'll talk about it on the next show. But I haven't heard anything.
No. I know Michigan versus World in chat says Kirk's not in a rush to hire. He said it's a problem for next year, not now. But you got to start dealing with next year's problems now. I mean, once we're done with the conference championship game, there's a bowl game in the future, but even bowl games now are used for the future. You're playing guys there that you're going to have next year. But, with the transfer portal, you kind of need an offensive coordinator if you want to get someone in the portal, they kind of have to know who they're going to play for, who's, what style of offense. And they don't seem to care. It still makes me wonder if Kirk is thinking about leaving. But, getting a little deep into the weeds with that one, but in fact, it's just been nothing other than, it's not time to really worry about it yet. I mean, everyone else is. Everyone else certainly is, so why not? I don't know. I don't get it.
If he was thinking about, if he had decided to leave, I think if he's definitely decided to leave, there is no advantage in waiting and announcing that. So,
unless you're pissed.
Oh.
I mean, he's built that up. So I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking about his son here and the way it went down, and interim AG doing it. Like, it was just an all around awkward situation. I mean, and then everyone thought that she was just going to get the job, and that search is still going. If they opened up a full-on search for candidates for the AG position, so an interim AG made that call, which I thought signaled that she was going to be the new permanent spot, and then they opened up a full search with a headhunter agency and everything. So I don't know what's going on in Iowa City right now. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's interesting that we haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think we'd hear anything, soon after the season, and I did kind of figure, we'll probably hear about it later than others. But if everyone else has already done their hires and then those leavings and then rehires behind that, you're probably behind the ball.
Yeah, you definitely are.
We've got guys that are getting hired to replace guys that got hired away already.
I'm gonna really have to ask some questions because I haven't even read reports about, I'm
nothing.
No
nothing.
names, no hot board lists.
Yeah, nothing. He's just saying nothing to anybody. It's like nothing's coming out of the admin because they got a bigger problem. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do AG. I think probably that split. Probably some people didn't like that she fired the son. And so, it just kind of seems like on campus is a little split right now. So a little politics. And I know for you, while, Iowa's the hated ones to the south, there's still a lot of connections and ties there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know about that. That was just Mike calling was like, help me out, man. I can't find it.
I don't have any help, but I promise you I'm going to do all I can to at least get you some info on that. Even if it's no info, that's info.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I just, the info that I don't want is I don't want him to wait and then do like a late announcement that he's retiring, because that just means things got real ugly on campus, and that's not good. I mean, he deserves to go out the right way.
Sure does. Absolutely. Yep.
I'm hoping for it. I don't know. I don't got much else. I know I saw some people talking GT, and we've already hashed that out to the ends of the world, and I don't know if they're even going to have the money to do this. We might see Florida State step out and make this little announcement you talked about all by themselves.
Yeah,
if
maybe.
They announce their plans to leave, but they don't announce where or anything like that. It might just be Florida State.
I got a feeling.
Yeah.
Well, I've talked about a certain date range with Clemson, so we have other information on Clemson.
You did. I remember that.
I don't think Florida State is their announcement, whatever it is, might be separate, solo, but I don't think they're going to be left out on the branch for very long after they do so. That's our take on it. North Carolina, that's a separate situation. That might have to wait, but I don't think Clemson's going to be much further behind Florida State.
I can see Florida State and Clemson being the first to announce, because that would, in that sense, cause everyone to stir, right? Like, if you hear that they come out and say they're planning to leave, they don't say where to, but that they're planning to leave, most of those schools are going to start to now scurry, kind of like how we saw in the Pac.
Mm-hmm. So
I could see that. Until I see it, I have a hard time believing that the Big Ten is going to take both Clemson and Florida State. I can't wrap my head around that. I know the majority of people think it's true, and I certainly can see like there's value in that. It just seems like that's two network picks and not really any pick that the presidents and their academia and all that would be all that strong about.
Yeah.
Is that how you would see it within the Big Ten, or do you think that maybe it wouldn't?
For Clemson?
Yeah, especially for Clemson. But, I mean, Florida State, too. I mean, the obvious one in that is the value to the networks. But I don't really think a lot of academia is going to be flipping over backwards for Florida State either.
I believe that Florida State was able to clear themselves out of the grant of rights, and if Florida State would agree to whatever the media money is proposed to them, and all the other stuff that goes on in negotiations, I think the Big Ten presidents would get behind and take Florida State. I don't think yeah, that's what I think. This has been the moment. No, I shouldn't say. Well, when USC called the Big Ten, and it was going to be USC +1, and it was announced on June 30th, 2022. It was told to us, and we talked about it early in this YouTube channel, like on August 11th and 12th, whatever, the first few episodes of 2022, we said that the Big Ten's going to expand again out west so they can go out east. And it was really like, they're going east. They're going to find success somewhere on the East Coast. That is where they're going to end their conference expansion for the next generation. But they were going to go west again, right? And then eventually they took Oregon, Washington. So if the Big Ten has the means, if there's the opportunity, if the schools have cleared themselves out from the grant of rights, or there's a good indication that they're going to be able to do it by settlement, then I don't think the Big Ten presidents are going to say no to a Florida State or even to a Clemson if that's their two opportunities, if there's no other opportunities. But I will say this, though, Immaculate. I will say this, and we reported this, and people can take this however they want to take it within the Big Ten. And we've talked about this before, but the Buckeyes are calling the shots on this. Michigan's calling the shots on this. Penn State is calling the shots on this. So Minnesota's going to say yes if Ohio State says yes to a Florida State. So it's really about those three institutions, which is totally unlike all the other realignment stuff, all the expansion stuff that has happened in the past in the Big Ten. Oregon and Washington, that was supported by Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, Purdue, Indiana. Those are the schools that wanted Oregon and Washington to become part of the Big Ten. It wasn't Ohio State. It wasn't Penn State. It wasn't Michigan. They were outvoted. They knew where it was going. But they also knew, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, they also knew, because this was the talk within the Big Ten right on June 30th, and we reported it, and other people reported it as well, by the way, that eventually the Big Ten was going to go east, but we're going to have to go west one more time, and they did with Oregon and Washington. So I think, with my trying to finish up my long spiel here, I think, yes, they would take Florida State if Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State says, yes, let's do it. They will follow on it.
Yeah, I think Florida State's an easy. I don't think you're going to get too many no's. My problem is the combination of Florida State and Clemson.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I get your point, and I think you make great points with the Georgia Tech thing. I do. I
just don't know if Georgia Tech has the money to do this right away.
The only thing is, one, the people that we have talked to at Peek Around the Corner have never brought up Georgia Tech, but they have brought up Clemson, right?
Okay.
Not like a North Carolina, not like a Virginia, not like a Florida State, but they brought up Clemson. They've never brought up Georgia Tech anymore. Number two, in this is the hurdle that I have failed to talk about enough, which I should really start to talk about. Besides all the other landmines that are in the field when it comes to this realignment, is that the media market is still tight. Even though NBC found enough money to make Notre Dame happy, and you're seeing some deals, we still got the NBA, we still got WWE to have to figure another thing out, I guess. AEW has to figure something else. NASCAR just got a boatload of money. But if the Big Ten, if a couple schools are going to be made available, if somehow they get free of the grant of rights through a settlement with the ACC, of course you can see Fox saying, Florida State of Florida, we're in. And then you get down to Clemson and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's in a way bigger market. Clemson is the bigger brand. Georgia Tech's the better institution when it comes related to what Big Ten is looking for. But what will Fox Sports think about a Clemson versus Georgia Tech? That's up for discussion. But
as Fox being like a big, the ownership that they have in the Big Ten network, now that's not huge numbers compared to what they pull out of Fox, but getting Big Ten network in market in Atlanta,
that's a lot of money.
It's not small time.
No, that's a lot of money. It's not small time. I don't know. The Georgia Bulldogs are kind of like in their own universe there. But Georgia Tech's in a smaller universe, and Clemson's got the bigger fan base, but in a smaller market. I don't know, man. I would still give Clemson the edge, but you bring up great points.
It's a tough one because it's such a large market. Georgia might be the big dogs, right now. And Georgia Tech's not the number one there. And certainly, yes, the Big Ten doesn't like to just have a second. But when you're in a place like that, I think the combo of Florida State and Georgia Tech also helps you there. Because while Florida State's not in Georgia, it's pretty damn close. I mean, you're basically bookending that state by taking Florida State and Georgia Tech. And you're from the south to the north. You've got Florida State's going to help you get coverage through all of Florida. I don't think you have to have Miami to get to South. I would dare say there's probably as many Florida State fans in the South as there are Miami fans. I don't know. But the big problem with it that I'll admit is that I don't know if Georgia Tech has the means to actually do this right away. It would probably require Florida State coming out on their own. Now, you're saying Clemson too, but maybe that's to go to the SEC or whatever. But Florida State coming on their own, coming out saying, we have plans to leave. We are looking into that, but we are definitely going to be leaving, even if we have to go be independent. You just coming out and saying that as a matter of fact. I think that puts things in motion. And while maybe there's been zero GT talk up to this point, with good reason, that might change. If you're Georgia Tech and you see that, you might get active and reach out and say, hey, if this ever ends up happening, are we in the running? Because it's the same thing with the Pac. When USC and UCLA left, everyone's all like unity, we're all together, but they were all looking around and searching. They were all putting out their feelers. And before USC and UCLA announced, no one was doing that. Maybe Oregon and Washington were talking with Big a little bit. Maybe. But, overall, the majority of them were thinking, pack till they die.
Yep.
And that's kind of the same thing in the ACC now. Is we're not going to take this seriously. Florida State's raising hell, but we think it's just so they can get more money. But if they come out and they make a big announcement, you got to take that seriously, right? Like, even if it doesn't say where they're going, it's definitely a shot across the bow that they are raising money right now to do whatever they got to do. So that's when I think you, above anyone, might sit and hear something about Georgia Tech, and that's when I would be looking at you and looking forward to see if you're hearing any whisperings.
Yeah.
But,
no whispers.
No, yeah, I don't foresee any either until Florida State announces something. So we'll see. That's my thoughts on GT. I think they got all the right stats. I just don't know if they got the money for it. So
got it.
Have yourself a good one, man. Talk to you later.
Appreciate it, Immaculate. Great phone call, Mr. Hot Guy. Thank you, Immaculate, for the great phone call. Ryan, Willie, Evo, Badgers, Super Chat. Thank you so much for your generosity, Ryan, once again, to peek around the corner. I appreciate it. Badgers ran through the Gophers defense. Yes, they did. But the Gophers defense was completely decimated. They were playing true freshmen. They were playing walk-on true freshmen in the secondary. They had nobody at the linebacker position. They were playing freshmen. They're completely, so that's not a Joe Rossi's the same defensive coordinator that the Minnesota Golden Gophers took the axe from Wisconsin the 2 previous years. 3 years out of the last 6 years. Joe Rossi has been a great defensive coordinator, and he's been recognized throughout the conference and the country. And it's a big loss for Minnesota to lose Joe Rossi. I don't know. Hopefully there's a couple names. I have no idea who they're going to get next as the defensive coordinator. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the super chat. John Teal, could South Florida take along with FSU like UCLA and USC? If you're talking about South Florida in Miami or Florida, yes. If you're talking about the University of South Florida, no. Possibility of Miami, Florida, and FSU. Because Immaculate and I just talked about the possibilities of a Clemson FSU versus a Georgia Tech FSU. You also have to throw in the possibility of a Miami, Florida FSU. But I don't believe USF is a possibility. But a pretty good research university, and they just became AAU. And it sounds like they're going to get their new stadium, on-campus stadium, in 2027. 35,000 seat, perfect for the market. It's going to be a beautiful stadium, it looks like. It looks like that's finally going to happen. So that's going to be a big event for the Bulls, South Florida Bulls. But yeah, they are not a candidate for the Big Ten. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Phone lines back open, 763-260-1333. The line is open. Hi, Greg. Happy Sunday. You do not believe the ACC totally implodes? I believe there's a chance that the ACC keeps their Autonomy 4 status if they're smart. If some of those schools can get a settlement with the schools that want to leave, that have a landing spot with SEC in the Big Ten, there is an opportunity for the ACC to keep their Autonomy 4 status. I absolutely believe that. I think they can be, even with the implosion, they can remain an autonomy conference along with the Big 12. It might not happen. Maybe they lose too many schools. Maybe it just doesn't happen. But I think there is a shot to happen. A shot to happen. I cannot write a book. I've been asked about it. What I did is if you go back, I know a lot of people were not members at the time, but if you go back to episode 22, Episode 22 in this YouTube channel. Go to it. I explain how we broke the big USC to the Big Ten story and why the Los Angeles Times interviewed me 4 different times. They put it out on the front page. we had to wait to episode 22. We couldn't do it on episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this YouTube channel because the Los Angeles Times and I made a deal that they were going to be the first ones that explained the story. You know, they had to cut a lot of things out, obviously. It was a pretty long article as it was, but on episode 22, we were able to enhance the story even further. There's a lot in that story that I still can't talk about. There is part of the Colorado story that I still can't talk about. I still can't talk about why that Colorado and the Big 12 met on May 7th in Chicago and not on May 6th. I still can't talk about why they didn't meet on April 30th. These were dates that they were trying to line up and meet. And I won't be able to write a book on it because it has to do with family members of the people that were part of the story, and I just don't want to. So, yeah, I don't think I could write it because I think I would have to redact most of it. You'd see big black lines all through the book. So I don't think I could do it. Well, we used to get it through pretty much one, the money purchase. And I'm not going to get into much of that. I've been in that. I've talked about it before. But fortunately for us, the Rolodex has expanded greatly. We get stuff from many different directions. We never burn our sources. We do not get in trouble with them.
Call from Stacy.
Stacy, thanks for calling again. Mrs. Georgia Bulldogs, what's going on?
Not much, Greg. How's it hanging with you?
I'm a little devastated today because
I've been listening.
Yeah.
I've been listening to your show, and even though I don't follow the Gophers, I don't have anything against them. As a matter of fact, I pull for them when they're playing Minnesota or Ohio State. So I know what it feels to lose a coach, assistant coach, etc. I mean, it bites. And, I don't know if you guys have any other, assistant that you want to slide in there. Because again, I don't follow Minnesota. As a matter of fact, I guess the only team that I consistently follow is Nebraska. And I did that ever since I was a kid because my granny was, even though we were all diehard Georgia Bulldog fans, she loved the coaches, the Oklahomas, the Barry Switzers, the Bob Devaney's, and then, Nebraska has a big tradition. I understand that. And, I mean, they were powerhouses. And when they beat Steve Spurrier and the Gators, we were pulling for them all the way because, as you know, Florida Gators is our number one rival.
Yeah.
So we loved it. And my granny would always say, watch out for these big farm boys. You want to see big boys? Watch these big farm boys. Because my grandmother grew up on a farm in Georgia. And she says, there's nothing bigger. You watch out for those big boys. And sure enough, man, they took Steve Spurrier and them Gators to the woodshed, and I just couldn't have been happier. But do you guys have anybody in mind that you would like to see slide in there? Anybody?
I normally I would have names but I'm so devastated. I have not even. No, I don't have one single name.
Yeah, I understand that.
I need a recovery time. I need a 24-hour recovery time. That's one of the reasons why I came on live today, just to talk with college football fans, just to try to get out of my wife's hair because I don't want to be walking around all depressed. And
that's how, we do down here, to try and talk the fans off the ledge when, we lose a big recruit, or, guess what, our assistant coach just took the Syracuse job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. And you're like, wait a minute, let's decompress here. Let's talk to some other fans and talk us down off the ledge. So I completely understand. But just want to hit on a couple of points about, I listened to your shows last week, and I get it. We're coming up now a week out on the whole FSU getting screwed over. And I'm so tired, like you said, of Paul Feinbaum. I cannot stand to listen to him. All he did the whole week was tell fans, and particularly, to shut up, get over their pity party, and deal with it. If they want to compete, leave the ACC. And then it was, oh, well, you do realize that, irony of all ironies, that their commissioner met with the Big Ten and the Pac-12, and they three voted against expanding it this year because of the SEC. They said, well, you're going to have 5 SEC teams in, and we don't want to see that. So he was blaming, in particular, their own commissioner of the ACC. Now, I don't know how much that's 100% true or just Feinbaum just trying to, turn the knife. I don't know, but I just have to turn him off because he may say he's not SEC biased, bull. He is. I don't care what he says. He works for the SEC network, which is parent company of, as I call it, the Mickey Mouse network. Mm-hmm. And he's a mouthpiece for the SEC teams. And, like I told you last week, I'm not. I am, above all, a Georgia fan, but I'm a college football fan, and I'm all about objectivity and fairness. So how do you think those boys feel, the players for FSU? Yeah, the fans are livid, but can you imagine the FSU players? And Paul Feinbaum and them, and Heather Dinich, which is another one I can't stand. She's another mouthpiece. Seriously, if you've ever listened to her, if you can stomach her for more than 5 minutes, she's another mouthpiece for Nick Saban and Alabama Crimson Tide. And all she did was got on set and laughed. Her, Tom Feinbaum, Reese Davis, they laughed. The only one who stood up for FSU was Booger McFarland, and he's a former, LSU player. And he looked at them like, how can y'all be doing this? And I got to tell you, when Reese Davis started laughing, saying, oh, get with it, he's braver than I would be. Have you seen Booger McFarland? He looks like he can eat you for breakfast. I'm sorry, but I'd have been like, yeah. But at least he stood up for the players because he played the game. Yeah. Paul Feinbaum probably was never picked to play any sport for any, kids on the playground, so he wouldn't know what that's about. But it's like, have some heart. When he's telling, FSU fans and the committee and all that, that might have want to had an argument, get over it and quit your crying and deal with it. I just wanted to reach through the radio phone and just strangle him because I'm like, who are you? You're not the voice of a college fan. You're some hack two-bit wannabe writer, and your alma mater is Tennessee, who you've never pulled for. He's always been another mouthpiece for Saban. So it's like, get over it, whatever. But I listened to your show, and I appreciate that you're stepping up and sticking up for the players and as well as the fans because it matters.
Yeah, it matters. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening to the show. I appreciate your nice comments, Stacy. One thing I noticed, yesterday and the day before, I said the person that I think should win the Heisman is Jaden Daniels, the quarterback of LSU. I believe he was the correct winner. This is my opinion. Yeah. I believe he was so fantastic. He played at a level that was through the stratosphere. I know they lost 3 games and everything, but I believe he was the very, very best. And that's no shot against the great Bo Nix, the great Michael Penix, and everything. But I got to say there's a but to it. Yeah. I noticed, Stacy, noticed that when Jaden Daniels, when ESPN talked about it, and I believe he was the rightful winner, it's okay if people disagree with me. Right. But they never mentioned, Stacy, The team that shut down Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
Yes.
FSU.
Florida State.
Florida
State. They weren't good
FSU.
enough. They weren't good enough to get to the top 4, the playoffs, undefeated, conference champion, autonomy conference champion. They weren't good enough to get there. But, man, they were good enough to shut down the best player in college football.
Exactly. I mean, if you saw the game, completely icing.
Yeah.
And they beat them more than Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide beat LSU. And Alabama couldn't shut him down. They had to dirty cheap shot him to knock him out of the game. And it's like, are we forgetting that? You know, but selective amnesia when it comes to a lot of these SEC talking heads. But at least I can say I'm not. I would have slid FSU in. And I called in last week to the Josh and Swain show that's out of Tennessee. Yep. And Swain used to play for Tennessee. And he was like, well, they're just in another conference, you know, SEC is the best. And I said, they did everything they were supposed to do. And I said, they played all 13 games, so they're conference champs. What are you talking about? I said, do you think they would have kept Georgia, Tennessee, or Alabama out of it if their, quarterback would have been knocked out of it? Well, no, but that's because we play in a tougher conference. BS. Quit being a talking head for the SEC and do what's right. So he said, well, who would you have slid in? I said, again, with a caveat, I don't think Michigan should be in. They cheated. They had enough evidence to suspend Harbaugh for it. They shouldn't be in. But that's another story for another day. So I said, Michigan, Washington, FSU, and Texas. Those are my 4. He lost his mind. He crossed his eyes because I watched him on my phone. And I'm like, what? I said, you asked me and I'm telling you. And so the guy, Josh, said, wow, that's pretty fair. And he said, you would keep Alabama out? I said, yes, I would. Absolutely, 100%. I said, if you listen to all the talking heads on ESPN and all that, before the committee voted, they all said this could be the year SEC doesn't get one team in. But the cowards they are, they couldn't do that. And they're like, well, we can't keep Nick Saban out. We got to put him in. So it's like, oh, give me a break. So I said that. And then I saw Booger McFarland go on that Stephen A. Smith, his podcast, which, again, I cannot stand Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear what they had to say. Stephen A. Smith is another talking head for Alabama. He hates Georgia for some reason. I don't know why. But Booger said if anybody has an argument to be upset, it's Georgia. They're still one of the 4 best teams. And I'm sitting here, you can say that, but they had the opportunity and they lost their game.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, FSU should be in, and Booger said that. And he was like, you're going to kick Nick Saban out? You wouldn't put him in? He said, absolutely. He said, they don't deserve to be in it. They were ranked number 8. How did you justify leapfrogging them from number 8 to number 4 over at Ohio State, who only lost by 6 to Michigan? Ohio State had an argument. And I'm not an Ohio State fan, but But
I'm not either.
They didn't play
Stacey,
for the
I'm
conference
not either.
championship. I understand, But, they didn't play for the championship. And I'm like, well, that's also another argument. But they were ranked 6th. When Oregon went down, they should have slid up. But no, again, the committee took the gutless coward's way out. But Stephen A. Smith said, if FSU, and this is what gets me, and I would want to hear your opinion on this. Stephen A. Smith said to him, if FSU had Deion Sanders as their head coach, do you think FSU was still left out? Stephen A. Smith automatically answered his own question and said, I don't believe so. Booger took 5 seconds, and he looked around and he said, no, I don't. What? I'm sorry. Did I just grow 3 heads? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Now they're saying if they had Deion Sanders as their head coach, coaching for his alma mater, they would have gotten in.
So basically, they're confirming that the selection committee is a reality TV show instead of a real invitational. Yeah.
He did. He said it's an entertainment business. And Deion Sanders, he said, whether you hate him or like him, is entertainment. Listen, he was a phenomenal athlete. I watched him play for Bobby Bowden. But as a human being, he's trash. He's all about me, and teaching his boys and players to be about me, and not the team. But I like to lost my mind when they said FSU, had they had Deion Sanders as their head coach, they would be in it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. What do you think about that, Greg?
I agree with you, Stacy, and I would not dare disagree with you, but I agree with you. Games have to matter. The results have to matter.
That's
not
why you
who's
play
the
it.
head coach. Yeah.
How many people before the Pac-12 championship had Oregon annihilating Washington because they were only a one-loss team, and they said, oh, yeah, Oregon's going to take it to them?
Yep.
I even thought that.
Yep.
Well, what happened? Even the talking heads at ESPN and all the other sports radio, oh, yeah, Oregon, you're going to be in the championship. Well, guess what? Washington, it was closer than what the score showed, but all night long, Washington had Oregon's number and Bo Nix's number. And Bo Nix turned out to be the quarterback that I and all the SEC fans knew best. Quarterbacking at Auburn, we all called him Mo Picks because that's all he did.
Well,
sorry.
hold on.
Yep.
Wait, now I was one of those that did not believe in Bo Nix because
me too.
Because in 2021, not 2021, holy smokes, way back in 2019, Bo Nix was the quarterback of Auburn. And the Minnesota Golden Gophers played Auburn in a January 1st Bowl.
I remember that, yes.
You remember that? And Minnesota beat Auburn.
I remember it.
Minnesota
and I'm
pushed
like, good
Auburn.
old Mo Picks.
Minnesota pushed Auburn all over the field, and we made Bo Nix not look very good. So when he transferred to Oregon, I said, I don't think it's going to work, but Bo Nix did have a great career at Oregon. Made a lot of big plays.
Dan Lanning, when Dan Lanning left Georgia to take the Oregon head job, I said, we are going to suffer a setback. And I was right. All year long, if you watch Georgia play in a lot of their games, we could have lost 4. Hell, we could have lost to our in-state rival, Georgia Tech. Yes, everybody says, well, Georgia just played around with them. No, I'm sorry. Georgia Tech came to play and Georgia did not. We only beat them by 8. And I'm just saying that Dan Lanning, I think that was a direct cause and effect because he was phenomenal at Georgia. He was phenomenal, and Kirby Smart pulled off the coup when they were both under Nick Saban, and he took Lanning to Georgia because it was rumored that, Nick Saban was going to slide Lanning in, and he was ticked off when Kirby Smart took Lanning to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we've suffered. And that's the whole reason I said I've watched Georgia play. I'm a diehard fan, and we didn't look good all year. And then they want to say, well, look, 2-time defending national champ, won 29 in a row. They only say it when it fits their narrative to slide Alabama in. But all year long, Georgia, why should they be ranked number 1? Look at them. They're barely winning their games. Have to come from behind, beat Auburn by 7, come back from behind from a lowly South Carolina team in the fourth quarter to win, and on and on and on. And then now, we're the golden team, and because Alabama beat the number 1 team, they deserve to be in? No, they don't. They absolutely don't. FSU should be in, and it's arguably between Texas and, if you want to say, Ohio State, those two. Alabama, no. Alabama, they came on strong towards the end of the year. They only voted them in my opinion, because of who their coach is, which is Nick Saban. That's my opinion.
I agree with you, Stacy. I absolutely agree with you. There's plenty that don't agree with us. About myself and Stacy, we're going to hold firm on our opinion here.
Okay. I know I'm long-winded, but last point I'll make.
Yeah.
As far as conference realignments, whatnot, I know you talked about Georgia Tech a lot. Well, if anybody can remember way back when, Georgia Tech used to be in the SEC. They jumped out of the SEC back in 78, and they started playing the ACC schedule in 79. Bobby Dodd, who was the head coach, he said, we want to get into a smaller market. Well, rumor was he saw the writing on the wall, and he wanted out of the SEC. That's why he got out of it, and they've been in the ACC ever since. So this talk about them going back to the SEC, I don't see it because I think they see that we might have a better shot in the Big Ten. And I'm not knocking the Big Ten because let me tell you, we got lucky that Ruggles missed that kick because otherwise we would have lost.
You didn't get lucky, Stacy. What happened is I was doing a watch party on that game, and before that kick, I called it. I said Ohio State's going to make the field goal and they're going to win the game. But because I am known as Greg the Cooler, where everything I predict in a game goes belly up, goes pear shape, I basically pushed Georgia into the championship game. I eliminated the Buckeyes on my own.
Well, thank you for that.
Now, good news for you, Stacy. Good news for you is in this playoff, I have predicted Michigan to win it all. So history shows us that basically Michigan now doesn't have a chance. So you should be happy.
And between you and I, as much as I can't stand Nick Saban in Alabama, does anybody give Michigan a shot to beat them?
Yeah,
I got to be honest.
I do. I think Michigan's, and I've said it all year, even though I've gone after Michigan real hard on the in-person scouting, real hard, to the point where I've been raked over the coals by Michigan fans and message boards. They have a great football team.
Delusional Michigan fans, because I've heard from the other half of the Michigan fans saying, we've cheated. And 2 years from now, the NCAA is going to come and snatch all the wins away from us when Harbaugh is in the NFL coaching. So not all will rake you over the coals. But, unfortunately, there are some delusional Michigan fans who don't think they cheated at all. It's like, they all do it. All schools cheat. No, they don't. Kirby Smart's like, we got a call and we heard rumors, and so we were prepared. That's why we kicked Michigan's butt. That's why TCU kicked their butt. So it's like any coach who has half a brain knows Harbaugh. He can't win in the big games. He's a choke coach, and that's why he's been flirting to go to the NFL for the last 4 years. I mean, come on.
Well, we're going to be doing a watch party on that game. So Stacy and everybody else, make sure to come into the chat, put down your comments in real time, because we're all going to be watching that game, watch party, Michigan, Alabama. And we're also going to be doing Washington and Texas. So,
well, I'll definitely watch it. And I got to tell you, out of the four, the lesser of the evils coming in last for me would be Texas. But I can't stand Texas because they're always saying, we're back. What, back to being below average? Forget it. I have just now become the biggest Washington Husky fan in all of history.
Okay.
So I'm pulling for those Washington Huskies. They're another dog, so let's go Huskies.
Okay.
Win it all. But to finish up, I don't see Georgia Tech going to the SEC. Could I see them going to, the Big Ten? Possibly. Yeah. Maybe in the Big 12. I don't know that. Mm-hmm. And I have another question for you and any other diehard Nebraska fans out there. My ex-husband is born and raised in Iowa, but his number one fan is Nebraska, always has been. Yeah. And I even said to him, I said, why doesn't Nebraska, since they kind of remind me of Georgia, their fan base, whether they're winning or losing, will travel throughout the country. They fill up stadiums just like Nebraska does. Yeah. Why don't they take a jump to the SEC? Because if you remember, when Missouri came, nobody in the SEC wanted Missouri. Nobody did. Yeah. And they're still below average. They had a great year this year with Drinkowitz. I'm not going to deny that.
They're going to have a good year next year, too.
Right. Yeah, they're doing pretty good in the portal. Yeah. But if you ask me, between the two, I would have rather had Nebraska because their teams sell out, even when they're a 5-17. I don't think they've broken their record of not selling out their stadium. Yeah. So do you think that, one day down the road that maybe Nebraska might say, hey, we got Matt Rule now, who's an awesome coach, and I foresee them turning it around with him.
I don't believe so. I don't believe they're going to leave to the SEC.
You don't think so?
I don't believe any Big Ten team's going to go to the SEC, or I don't believe any SEC teams going to the Big Ten.
No.
So
I don't see that either.
Yeah.
But is it because, and again, the argument was back 31 years ago, and Bobby Bowden was infamous for this. Twice he said it. The SEC invited him and his school to come to the SEC, and he was infamous, and they still replay it to this day. He said it twice on national TV. The only way that my school will get to a national championship if we stay in the SEC. We won't do it going to the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was like, gosh darn, Bobby, I love you, but what are you saying? You don't believe in your school or your institution? And that was his quote, and it still holds true to this day.
Yeah.
So as far as FSU coming to the SEC, I don't know, because now the beef between Greg Sankey and their ACC, commissioner, I don't know. And to be frank with you, I'm just over Greg Sankey. I don't like him. He's always pushing, and he's doing his job. Don't get me wrong, Greg, to get an SEC team in. But if he would just be honest, FSU deserved to be in there, not an SEC team this year. But he'll never ever, do the right thing. So, but I don't see FSU going to the SEC. I see possibly the Big 12 or maybe the Big 10. I don't know. Just history with Bobby Bowden saying that, and again, the conflict what just came up with the committee voting FSU, out. I don't see them coming to the SEC.
Yeah.
But again, Big 12 and maybe the Pac-10, the Big 10. Yeah, I can see that, but I don't foresee the SEC. But again, Georgia Tech, they were in the SEC for years and years, and they got out of it, and started playing the ACC schedule in time. So I don't know if they're going to jump back in.
I don't think so either. I think most of the callers and immaculate. Possibly, maybe Georgia Tech to the Big Ten. I don't think anyone, the SEC would not have any interest in Georgia Tech because they already have the market. They already have your Bulldogs. They don't need a Georgia Tech. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the one that has always been kicked around for years, and I got to be frank with you too, Notre Dame, can't stand them. I'm glad we beat them for our Can't stand. Look, I've got Irish in me, and I always call them the drunken Irish. I just can't stand them. And history has proven when they've gotten into, the playoffs and even in the BCS era, they choke. They're gone. They don't do anything. After Lou Holtz left, I don't think they've done anything. And that's why Brian Kelly got out and left. He's like, I'm never going to win here. But they were kicking around the tires saying, well, oh, my gosh, they would be crazy not to go to the SEC. They have both the Big Ten market.
We do have breaking news, Stacy. We do have breaking news.
What is
breaking news? If I can get my mouse to work here. 2025 four-star running back Jabri Wallace-Coleman has decommitted from Georgia.
Well, that was expected because I think they're going hard on the Florida kid. What's his name? Help me, Greg. His brother played for LSU. I think George is the lead in for him, and I think they also said maybe Texas.
Yeah.
Last I had heard, and Alabama is third, but I think they fully expect him to go to Georgia. We've got a full running back room. Who we wanted was his father played for Georgia. He ended up at the last second. Everybody had him going to Georgia. He flipped and went to Alabama. And he has barely seen the field all year. I can't remember what the kid's name is now. It escapes me. But we did the hobnail boot play against Tennessee. His dad caught that pass in the end zone to beat Tennessee at the last second. And so they said it was all about the money. Well, he's not doing anything at Alabama, so they expected him maybe to come back to Georgia. And I'm like, I don't care if he does or not. I only want players who want to come to the University of Georgia because they love it, like me. Yes, throw in some cash, that's great, but that's what's ruining this. Yeah, you can say, the NIL deals, but where is the loyalty to when fans grew up being a fan because they love the team, not because of the wins and losses. They just love their team. And I'm not seeing that anymore. And it's sad, and I know we all have to adapt and change. But, again, it's, here, $2 million, and we'll flip this kid, no problem. Well, then what makes it down the road think that he's not going to then flip again and go to another school the following year? Because there's no loyalty there. Yeah. So, and that's why Florida's a dumpster fire. And, they just can't compete anymore. And they only had 20 years of being relevant. After that, their whole program, they've been below average. So they never were a blue blood program like your Oklahomas, Nebraskas, your Texas of the days. You can throw in Alabama and your Georgias too. And at a long time ago, obviously, Minnesota. I know Minnesota was a premier program. But you just don't have the loyalty anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to throw a couple million at an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid, and that's it. They're out. So, 2025 for me is too far out to expect them to still be committed to a school. They're going to flip-flop. Bear Alexander did that numerous times. He was an awesome player, but he was toxic in the locker room, said some of the former players and current players. So he goes and takes the bag and goes to USC, and what did he do all year? Nothing. He went from a potential first-round defensive lineman, if he would have stayed at Georgia, to, third, fourth round? He's nothing there now. Lincoln Riley is not known for his defenses, never has been, and never will be. He's another choke coach. He can make you a Heisman-winning quarterback.
Yes.
Any other position, forget about it. So, Look, I hate the way the state of football is in now because all you have is a glorified NFL. And there's a reason I don't watch NFL for that very reason. I've never been an NFL fan, never will be. And, the only person that I like who then turned out to be maybe not so great of a person was Brett Favre because he was tough. He would block for his line and he would do whatever it took. But other than that, I'm not an NFL person. Yeah. And now we've got a glorified NFL in college football. I don't know how you feel about it, Greg, but that's just my take.
Well, I've done whole episodes on it, live shows. There's some good, there's some bad. I primarily try to give everybody a peek around the corner what's about to happen next. Yeah. And I let you guys all, talk about it. But we've known this was going to happen for years. We've been talking about it. It's the straw that has been stirring the drink and all the changes and all the realignment. The student athletes are going to get more and more highly compensated. This is why Texas and Oklahoma went to the SEC. It's not because it's easier in the SEC. It's just going to be a whole lot more money and exposure in the SEC. Right. So this is the future. Hopefully the game that we love, college football, that's why we have this YouTube channel. Hopefully it survives all this reform and change.
I hope so. And look, I was all for the players getting paid because without the players, your team's not winning. Yeah. And so for years, it's like you would hear the former athletes saying, I would have to borrow $100 just to go buy groceries. And that could have been their star running back and won the Heisman, but didn't have nothing to show for it. Yeah. So I'm not opposed to the players getting a piece of the pie, but this, the portal deal, one year, okay, you're at this university, the next year you hop on the train to another one. No, they need to keep the penalties in place. You're at that university. If you go transfer in conference, you got to sit out a year. Or if you transfer twice, that's it. And then I don't care where you go, you got to sit out a year. Until that is figured out, it is, a lot of these sports writers said we're in the Wild Wild West and anything goes. Yeah. And it's a shame for, people like ourselves who are diehard college fans, and we just want the best team to win, our team, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And now it's whoever has the biggest or deepest pockets is going to be, relevant now.
Yeah. All
and
righty,
that's the thing.
Stacy, we're going to run along here.
Yeah, I know I've been long-winded. And
No,
I
it's
apologize
okay.
for
I
that,
love your
but
calls. Please call again, Stacy. Mrs. Georgia Bulldogs and the PATC community. I appreciate it so very much.
I appreciate you, Greg, because at least you are not an SEC talking head. And you're all about fairness. And that is what fans need and college football needs. And so I appreciate you, and that's why I like jumping on with you, because if I go to any other SEC YouTube channel, I get lambasted out of town. It's like, whatever. Get over it. Deal with it. So, anyway, listen, I hope your Gophers find aces as far as another defensive coordinator and knock it out of the park. And going forward, I hope you guys, are next year going to be in the playoffs. And I look forward to calling.
We're not going to be in the playoffs, but thank you, Stacey.
Well, I'm hoping that because you're a good guy. And for all you Minnesota fans out there, I'm hoping for you. And again, go Washington Huskies.
Got it. Go Huskies.
Go them all.
Bow down to Washington. Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Have a good night. Go Dogs.
Great call by Stacy. Mrs. Georgia Bulldogs, bow down to Washington. I'm not going to be singing that song today. I sang it like a week ago. We'll see what happens in the playoffs as they win. Maybe I'll sing it again. But I do appreciate everybody coming on in on the Sunday afternoon show to help me get through this painful afternoon. The Minnesota Golden Gophers lost their outstanding defensive coordinator. He goes to the Michigan State Spartan, East Lansing, to join Jonathan Smith. Devastating. Absolutely devastating. Tomorrow, Monday, we'll get back to the national college football news. But today we had to talk about my beloved Golden Gophers. It was a very good portal season so far for Minnesota. Shocking everybody how well it has gone for Minnesota until this afternoon. Joe Rossi, the great defensive coordinator, to Michigan State. If you're new to the channel, before you leave, please subscribe to the channel. Get yourself notified. Hit the notification bell. Get yourself universally notified the next time we come on live. It can be anytime. It can be in the morning. It can be during lunch. It can be during the evening. We could come on live twice in one day. We've done it before. We're going to do it again. So make sure you are subscribed to our channel. You're notified. And before you leave, please smash the like button if you liked our content. If you did not like our content today, hit the thumbs down button. And let me know in the comment section or on a tweet at Flug Empire to let us know how we better can serve you for better college football content. I want to thank the great donations that came in today to help us keep the lights on. I want to thank everybody who has joined the Early Peak member. We have a whole bunch of Early Peak members now. If you're interested in getting the Early Peak membership, it's $5.99 a month. Hit the join button. We dropped information this morning. New information. We believe, we've been told that Riley Leonard, the transfer quarterback of the Duke Blue Devils, is going to be making an announcement tomorrow, Monday, that he's going to be at Notre Dame for the 2024 season. So if you're interested in becoming an Early Peak member, go to the link in the description in this video and hit the link, become a member. If you're interested, hit the join button, become an Early Peak member where you can watch Early Peak episodes here on our YouTube channel. I want to thank all of you once again for joining. I need to do a better job of thanking the PATC community. Really, you guys have been unbelievable. We've been only on for a year and a half. I still don't even know what I'm doing. But yet, the amount of people that are subscribing and viewing, and you guys are helping us so much with your donation and the incredible comments. Stacy from Georgia, everybody, Lewis, Duke Blue Devil, Immaculate, Hawkeye, Moen, Buckeye, over and over, Steven, Mr. Bearcat, all across this country. This is a national college football YouTube channel, and it's for college football fans. College footballs, peek around the corner with your host, Greg Flugar. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.